Hi, I'm Peter Capaldi. I play the Doctor, and you're watching EMS Productions.
Hello everyone, here I am finally back with another video. Apologies that I didn't have a video out last week, I just didn't have time frankly to make anything, get anything together, and I think, to be honest, it says on my channel that I have an upload schedule, but to be honest I don't think I'm going to be able to stick to it because so much stuff at the moment is happening, kind of things that suddenly come up that I'm not expecting to be going on just with where I'm in my life and everything, so it's quite difficult for me to be consistently getting videos together and getting them out, so I think I'm kind of just going to be getting videos up whenever I can get round to making them and have time to make them, really. So I'll still try and aim to at least have a video a week, but I think there will be times where I just haven't got the time to make a video. So apologies for that, and hopefully you'll be okay with that. But in terms of today's video, I'm going to be focusing on a fairly important topic, I think, for fans, particularly fans of the new series, who always kind of look at Classic Who, see how huge amount of it there is, and just kind of don't know where to start, really. So I'm going to try and give you a few ideas, a few different starting points. If you're watching this video and thinking, I've never watched any Classic Who, but I want to, where do I start? Hopefully I'm going to try and answer that question for you. Now, before I get into my actual kind of selections of where to start, I should just caveat it by saying I haven't seen all of Classic Who. I've seen basically all of the 3rd and 4th Doctor, so the whole of the 1970s I've seen. I've seen a fair amount of the 60s stuff, not so much of the 5th, 6th and 7th Doctor, but I kind of feel like that's not really a point where you're going to start, so that doesn't matter so much. But I've seen enough, and I have enough knowledge to be, I feel at least, to be able to give you a fairly good idea of where's a good place to start and not so good places to start. So obviously the number one obvious place to start would be right at the very beginning, go back to 1963, to An Unearthly Child, if I could get the words out, with William Hartnell, back from 23rd November 1963. You could start there, try and watch it all the way through. And that's very much a thing that I want to do in the future. Once I eventually get all the classic DVDs, I will do a full marathon, and maybe I'll video it a bit as well. Who knows? But that'll be some time away, I'm afraid. But starting at the beginning is challenging if you've never seen any Classic Who before, I think, because it's so completely different to New Who. I mean, obviously the biggest thing that's probably quite daunting to people is black and white, and that sort of is unheard of, really, for any sort of TV now. For any sort of younger person, you kind of wouldn't even ever consider watching anything that's black and white, really old like that. So that certainly is something challenging. And also, obviously, the length of the stories is the other major difference with Classic Who in general. The fact that stories can last 2, 3, 4 hours, whereas nowadays it's 45 minutes for most episodes. So that is a huge change, and that's where the stories themselves are kind of developed very differently in terms of the pacing of the stories. It's so much slower. They'll spend 15 minutes working out a plan rather than 2 minutes like you would in a New Who episode. They kind of take so much more time on everything, which I can find which is very enjoyable and can be very good, but it is very, very different, and you kind of have to really get into that. So it is an option to start at the very beginning, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you do that unless you really do. You kind of feel confident, yeah, I'm going to enjoy this, so I want to get straight in from the start and watch it all the way through. Because even as well as the stories being all black and white and long and everything, there's obviously the lots of missing episodes, which make it rather challenging as well, because you've got to search out reconstructions or animated versions or just the audio of episodes to be able to actually sort of watch everything through. So that does make it rather challenging to get all the way through. It's something I'm going to do in the future, but for a starting point, if you've never watched any Classic Who, it's an option, but I probably wouldn't recommend it, really. Now, another one of the major sort of starting points that I'd say is a much preferred one from my point of view that'd be good to do is to start from Spearhead from Space, John Pertwee's first story from the start of 1970, because that very much was a new era of Doctor Who, because we went from black and white. That was the first colour episode, if you don't know, from Spearhead from Space. I'm kind of aiming this at people who aren't kind of so well versed in Classic Who and all those kind of things, so that's what this is about. And Spirit from Space, the first colour story, this you can actually get it on Blu-ray because of the way they filmed it. It's complicated, put it on film and everything, so that's quite, so it's good picture quality as well, which makes it kind of easier to stomach to start with, I think. And the stories, they're Earth-based, some of the early Pertwee ones as well, which I personally quite enjoy. You get a mixed bag of it, but it's a much, I think, a much easier place to start, because although there are some long stories there, just having it in colour, I think, makes a huge difference in terms of kind of getting through it. And there is every episode there as well. You don't have to look for recons, or every episode exists from the start of the Pertwee era, which makes it easier to watch through from there as well. So I'd certainly say that's a preferred starting point for me, at least. I'd say that's quite a good point to start. at the beginning of the third Doctor series, because at least in my opinion, I'd say the 1970s era Doctor Who is probably the best classic, at least from the classic series, is the best eras. The third and fourth Doctors are probably two of my top three after the second Doctor. They're probably my top three classic Doctors, and so I think that kind of running through that third and fourth Doctor era are some of the best of classic Who throughout that. And so that is very much, I personally, I'd say the place to go to watch the show, but of course there are other options as well, as I'm going to explain. Now, if you don't want to commit so much to sort of a full marathon of loads and loads of episodes, then you probably just want to go in and have, at least initially, have a look at some of the very best, highly rated episodes. So it's worth checking out kind of online polls to see what the top ones are if you're not aware. Personally, I'd suggest episodes like Genesis of the Daleks, 4th Doctor, City of Death from the 4th Doctor, Pyramids of Mars, 4th Doctor as well. He's got quite a few good ones. Talons of Weng Chiang, 4th Doctor. Looking back to the 3rd Doctor, Speared from Space is good just as a sort of a great story to get into. Or the Daemons, there's a different kind of story from there. Inferno, that's a top-notch 3rd Doctor story as well. Or on that same wavelength, you might want to look at kind of picking a story from each Doctor just to kind of get an experience of each of the different eras and a feel for each of the different Doctors as well. So maybe for the 1st Doctor you might want to go and look at the very first story on Earth and Child, or maybe you want to go Dalek Invasion of Earth, because that's a very good sort of story to get into. It's got a familiar villain as well, which always helps. With the 2nd Doctor, there's not a lot to choose from, frankly, because so much of it is missing, but I'd recommend watching Tomb of the Cybermen if you want to just watch one story from his era. 3rd Doctor, there's quite a lot to choose from. Probably want to go for Spirit from Space because it's just a shorter, it's only 4 parts, a bit shorter, a bit easier to get into, just start off with there. 4th Doctor, take your pick, there's so many good ones. 5th Doctor, not so sure, maybe you want to check out Earthshock, that's a really, really good story with the Cybermen in. Spoiler, Cybermen in, that's a top-notch story to check from there. 6th Doctor, there's not so much to choose from. Really, they're all not very good, frankly. Revelation of the Daleks is quite good, so is Vengeance of Varos, from the ones I've seen. So they're quite worth checking out. And 7th Doctor, I really don't have much experience of that. About the only one I've seen is Remembrance of the Daleks. That is good. So check that out, but I haven't seen any others. So that's another option to kind of either look at some of the top best stories and watch some of those first, or to watch one story from each Doctor to kind of find out which Doctor you like the most, which era you enjoy the most, and then maybe, let's say, you watch Earthshock and suddenly find, I love the 5th Doctor, he looks amazing, then you can go and watch all of the 5th Doctor series first, as that's a bit you think you're going to enjoy, sort of thing. I think maybe that's a good way to do it as well. Personally, I haven't done it that way, but I can certainly see the merits and the benefits of doing it that way, so maybe that would be an idea as well. Now, a much kind of quicker way, and I think, to experiencing a lot of different eras in one go would be to watch the multi-Doctor specials of the classic series, particularly either the 3 Doctors or the 5 Doctors, because, well, the 5 is actually the 3.5 Doctors, but we'll leave it at that for now. Because with the 3 Doctors you get a good experience of the 2nd and 3rd Doctors, plus a little bit of the 1st Doctor as well, because obviously he was a bit ill by then and couldn't really do too many scenes. But you do get an insight into kind of multiple Doctors to kind of find, if I like this Doctor or that Doctor, what you think about all that. And the same with the 5 Doctors as well. You obviously get the 2nd, 3rd and 5th Doctors properly, so you get to experience them. A brief scene of the 4th Doctor before he decided, Tom Baker decided I don't want to be in it, so they have to fluff that. And the 1st Doctor played by someone else who's not William Hartnell, because that's how they rolled in classic Doctor Who. So that's interesting, but it gives you a lot more of an experience of various eras of classic Who, various Doctors, so you can identify, again, as I said previously, who you like, who you want to watch more of, and then you can go and look for more of their stories. So I'd say that's kind of the other of the 3 or 4 ideas, I think, of main places to start watching classic Who. I think that's the 4th and final one. So I hope that's given you a good idea of how to get into classic Who, what episodes, where's a good point to start, what episodes you should watch, all these kind of things. Let me know in the comments below if you're still struggling and you're kind of not sure quite what are good episodes to watch or this kind of thing. Let me know and I will post in the comments with some suggestions, or let me know if you've already well versed in classic Who, seen it, all kind of things, where you started with it, how you kind of got into classic Who more, particularly if you started from watching New Who and then decided I'm going to go back and look at classic Who, which I'm fairly sure is what I did from what I can remember, because obviously it was 11 years ago, so it's quite difficult to remember, but I'm sure I watched New Who first, Rose, and half of series 1, and I think I started looking at classic Who a little bit, I think. So that was how I got into it. So let me know how you got into classic Who if you have, or how you want to if you haven't, and any other thoughts on classic Who in general or this kind of things, let me know in the comments below. That's pretty much it for this video. Remember to like the video, subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you again somewhere soon, hopefully, for another video. Goodbye!